2. We're on.
Oh, we're live. We're actually broadcasting this one live to everyone. Hi.
Oh
Hi.
man.
Hello.
Thought
G'day,
we were gonna
g'day.
kind of thought we were gonna do another test run, but okay,
Oh.
here we are.
Hello, everybody.
That was my
All
fault.
right.
Let's just
No, it's cool.
do it live.
Yep. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the always professional and very well prepared and very competent Skill Save. This is episode 2 of our special campaign called Rise. I am Dangerously, as always, and I am joined with the usual suspects, plus one, who is hoping to become one of our new usual suspects. And we will get to her in just a very short time.
And
If what?
I was just gonna say, ladies and gentlemen, Umgos is ready for your Valentine's cards.
Am I gonna get a Valentine's, Mr. Umgas?
I'll make you a Valentine's.
Yay!
I don't.
It's just a
I don't.
shittily scribbled card with stick figures. It's great.
Yeah. So, for those of you who chose to spend your Valentine's Day watching this show instead of going out with your loved one, I understand. I'm single too. So anyway,
Shameless plug.
that's really not. It's really not. There's lots of shame with that plug. Anyway.
Whew.
Oh, no.
Right. Oh my.
Oh my.
Anyway, as I was saying, we are continuing from the first episode. If you haven't seen that, please go back and watch it. We'll probably do a recap of each episode every like 2 or 3 episodes. I don't think it's a good idea to do a full recap after each episode, mainly just because everyone's schedules are hectic. If you guys think that you want to see like a quick like 30-minute recap of each episode, maybe hosted by me or someone else, or maybe with a rotating cast, just whoever has time to hop online, let me know in the comments or talk to me in Discord. We should have a link to the Discord, I assume, in the description. Is that right, Marquise?
Yes. Oh wait, not in general. I'll put it in general.
Yeah, but well, no, I linked to. I'm talking about on the YouTube video itself in the description. You should be able to put a link to our Discord in case we happen to get the random person that's not already a part of our Discord.
Oh yeah.
Or yeah, because like let's say we get super popular in a year or 2 years, right? And someone comes back and watches this and doesn't know we have a Discord yet.
Absolutely. I'll
that
put
would be
that
embarrassing.
on when we're done.
Okay, yeah. So after we're finished, all you have to do is wait 3 hours, and you'll be able to get a link to our wonderful Discord.
Woo!
Okay. But yeah, just let us know if you want us to do that. We're still obviously working on all of the issues that we've been having with technical difficulties and all that stuff. Not really issues, just working out the kinks of the plan. So with that, this would normally be where we start doing some dramatic music, which is on the way, almost ready. Probably should have it, I hope, by next week. But if not next week, we should definitely have it by the week after that. We'll be able to start adding music and cool stuff to the shows. But anyway, with that, we now delve back into Rise. Last episode of Rise, we had a very interesting combat where the players decided to go down a deep tunnel looking for uh, the forced transitioners that were taking people of rank and privilege and turning them against their will into the unremarkable, which are like a group of mostly brainwashed and indoctrinated people with their bodies have been broken into like submission. They mutilated and like their skin's been um whitewashed to the point where they all look fairly close to each other, being the same. Uh, and in some bizarre way, race, gender, and um social standing stop mattering in that point because everyone looks the same, so therefore everyone is unremarkable. So they followed the unremarkables trail down into this dungeon where they went in and rescued about 200 people, give or take, who were about to be forced into the unremarkable transition. Then they continued to fight their way through the many different tunnels and layers, and they found some items. Umgaz destroyed a chest. Like he killed the hell out of that chest. It's totally not a threat anymore. Um, and then
You opened the door.
then about this
Hello.
time, Jackie started realizing that they had been gone for a very long time. Jackie, who was their backup, basically the person who was up there guarding, one of the people guarding the cart where they have all their supplies and such, as well as their other prisoner, decided that they've been gone too long. So he started writing down at about this time to try to see what happened with them. Well, meanwhile, they end up walking into a big room with about 100 of the Unremarkables, a giant creature, who they have not actually ascertained the name of yet, um, but a really big creature with a hump on its back and you know, writhing muscles. And there was a spirit that seemed to be swirling around, possessing bodies one at a time, making them move. But anybody that it possessed rapidly deteriorated very quickly. Well, that's what rapidly means. That was redundancy, but you get the idea. To the point where it would take maybe one round for one of the Unremarkables to completely turn to goo. Actually, about 2 rounds, actually. But anyway, after Jackie tries to show up and saves the day, he was
Did not
possessed.
go well.
He was possessed by the spirit and then tossed by the big boy over at his friends. And
Conks
at
off my
that,
shield.
he conks off his shield, off of Zink's shield, and then he went on to nearly kill Quo. While this was happening, Zink got knocked out by the big boy, and a lot of things happened after this. But the end result was that Umgaz got the final blow on the spirit. Once the spirit was destroyed, something seemed to kind of go through the weapon that Umgaz had used to slay the spirit with, and into Umgaz's spirit. But everyone else was so distracted by the fact that they could visibly see vestiges of the spirit leaving both the 100 or so, well, the 99 unremarkables that were left, and as well as the large creature beasts um that they had been fighting with this entire time. To the point, oh, and also I think there's one ogre still alive, right?
Yes.
Yes.
To the point where they now, all of them kind of seem to be blank faced for a minute. They're staring blank faced, and no one's quite regained their bearings yet. And that is where we left off last week, and that is where we take the story from at this week. So with that, I will also want to do a quick announcement. Our friend Aridin, the Aiden, the one playing Aridin, is not going to be able to be with us today. He was unavoidably detained, not like legally detained. He's had some stuff to do with his day job, but so he will not be here. However, we do have a new member who will be joining in later on, and we have Jackie once again guest starring as that the helper. The help seems kind of derogative, doesn't it? Anyway,
Yep.
anyway,
Little
so Jackie, Umgaz, Quo, and Zink, you are all still down there where Aiden is. He's still with you, but he's kind of licking his wounds and kind of just going to be in the background, seemingly shook by what he's seen. So with that, we now begin the game of Rise.
Is it gone?
I guess.
Zinxis is just sort of looking over and trying to see if there's any trace of what exactly happened to it, still being sort of disoriented after having been knocked unconscious. So,
yeah, give me a roll for insight in the roll 20 for us there, buddy.
All right.
So, because we are still at this point very startup and poor, we don't have music. So just imagine that in the background, guys. Trust me, it'll make it great.
I mean, I'll take the skill save roll of 20 instead of.
Oh, that was
9.
That was Jackie's roll.
All right. So Jackie,
Yes.
you are able to, as you come to from being. Oh, wait a minute. No, you are unconscious, so you're not able to roll.
No. I sucked in 1 hit point. Remember, as he left me, I reached out and I was like, "Give me back my health."
Right. Okay. Good call. My bad. All right. So yeah. So you are able actually to understand, especially it feels like because of how close you were to becoming a victim to the spirit, that the spirit has been you get a bit of its attention while it was inside of you, and it's been searching. It's been doing this whole thing. It's been manipulating everything it could around itself so that it could find a vessel that could sustain it. You might actually have been the vessel that could do so, because while you were you were definitely not reacting well to having the spirit possess you. You weren't aging as fast as others were. And of course, then it got pushed into the thing, and the worst they had ever had happened to it. But yeah, you do realize though that whatever manipulations it had were definitely not like forceful. It couldn't force anyone to do anything unless it was actively possessing them. However, there was definitely some kind of a supernatural influence that it held over both the ogre and his friend, as well as the people who were forced into becoming unremarkable.
Well, laddies, seems to me that their ghost was bit of a mastermind behind the old scenario we found ourselves in. Excuse me, it seems that that possession there has done a number on my throat.
Yeah, I mean, you were fucked, man. Like, fucked.
You really hurt me, Mr. Silverspur.
And
Oh, Quo, I'm so sorry, my boy. And Silverspur leans down, gives Quo a hug, and he's like, I'm so sorry. And
Hug you back. He'll hug you back.
He taps Quo on the hat and casts the light cantrip and gives him a little light bulb on his hat.
it looks like you got a bright idea, mate.
And Zinxis, while they're commiserating, is just going to sort of look at the giant is still sort of bearing over us with a blank stare, correct?
Actually, at this point in time, you've seen the expression on his face change as everyone around behind him starts to change. And before you're able to really get an idea for what his expression is, you just hear from the background, as you turn and you see the ogre is now on, like he's dropped his weapon, is on his knees, and he's just crying over the body of the other ogre.
Zinxis is not equipped to deal with this situation, so he's going to slither on out of here.
Zinxis, greatest paladin.
Cult of moral ambiguity.
All right. While everyone else has got their attention drawn to this, the giant kin that you saw, kind of turns and clumsily walks towards the ogre and starts patting him on his back, saying, "There, it's okay." It's like he's just like very absent-mindedly, you could tell that he's not got a gentle hand, because as he's tapping him, the ground below the ogre's like feet are shaking with the impact of the pats on his back.
So he's just like patting him just a little too hard, making his eyes close.
Yep. Meanwhile, the ogre says, "Why was me out?" You get the idea that as he's trying to speak common, he's not very good at it, and he's so emotional that his words are blurring together, kind of like a drunk.
Zinxis is still going to just leave them to their sorrow, and I'm just going to check out what exactly is going on with this rock.
Okay, give me an Arcana, please.
All right.
Oh, no.
Mm,
Oh, no.
It's a glowy rock, and it's very pretty.
not anymore.
And Zinxis just is sort of touching it with his hand, and you just hear, "Interesting."
Yes, this is most definitely a rock.
The pioneers used to ride these babies for miles.
He's actively trying to talk about anything other than the two ogres and the giantkin just crying in the background.
Yes.
It's at this point that Jackie will head up to Umgos and pat him on the back and kind of motion towards the old Fomorian and the ogre and say, "Listen, laddie, I think you're the one that's reading from the control of this here spectre. Maybe you should go have a chat to them, see if you can work something out."
Chat?
Just with your mouth.
I mean, I'm well aware of how linguistics works, mate. It's just All right. Then he turns and starts walking to him. Like, "Oi!"
The ogre doesn't like stop crying. The sobs are still rolling down his face, but he looks up and so does the his name is I guess you didn't learn his name. His name is Famorin. And as he looks at you, you also notice that the 99 other unremarkables who have started getting their bearings turn as one, as if they were trained soldiers, stand at attention and look at you.
So, Quo, you gotta help me out here. I have no clue what I'm doing.
Okay. And Quo is standing behind Umgaz's legs and like peering from behind them. Ogre, giant person.
Name Famorin.
Famorin. When Mr. Umgaz killed your specter friend, what happened?
I don't know what means specter friend, but don't know much. Mostly hazy. No, was born small. Family hated me. Was always alone, and then wasn't alone. There was friend, come me in dark, speaking kindness. Give me name. Say, you are short for Fomorian, so name must be shorter version of Fomorian. You Fomorin. And I like name Fomorin. So I go with friend down here. Friend then tell me make more friends for him. Or it, or her, or they. Fomorin not really good at assuming gender.
Mr. Umgaz,
Yeah.
you should walk into the room.
Ungaz will kind of give you a look like this idea makes him uncomfortable, but he'll do so.
He will walk with you.
Okay.
He won't let you go alone.
Alrighty. Well, he will lift you up on his shoulder if you are so inclined, and
That's fine.
he just kind of walks into the center of the room.
Okay. They kind of all just kind of absent-mindedly stare at you while the ogre keeps sobbing over the body of the other ogre. At this point, as you walk close to each member of the as you walk closer to each member of the Unremarkables, they start setting tighter and tighter attention, to the point where you think that they might actually blow over at some point because of how tightly, like, straight up they're standing, as if they're waiting for you to talk to them.
So, are you lot of your own volition?
Roll persuasion with advantage.
Oh dear.
Right.
Persuasion with advantage. That's a 2,
Wow.
my friend.
That
That is
double one.
that's pretty. That's a whole 2 1s.
Well then, they look at each other and back at you. They seem to be wanting to answer you, but they don't know what you're asking. So they say, "Yours, sir."
Ungaz blinks and he's like, "Oh, right. So,
Gosh.
yeah.
Tell one of them to do something.
You," and he points to the one closest to him. Do 2 push-ups.
Roll persuasion with advantage.
God damn. Let's see.
Much better.
Okay. He drops down and does 2 push-ups perfectly, and then jumps back to his feet and says, "Was that good enough, sir?"
Yeah, I guess.
I think,
Hmm.
Mr. Ungas,
Yeah.
I think you control them now.
I'm guessing, but uh,
It's strange.
Oh,
yeah.
that really hurt my ear.
So you lot,
And who are you referring to?
he's just kind of speaking to a lot of them in general.
Okay. All of them, including the ogre and the Famoran stand up at attention. Well, Famoran tries to, but he's still hunched over, so he actually has a moment where he looks like he's gonna fall. He's overbalanced himself up front and he starts wailing his arms back and forth, and then he rights himself and he kind of stands back at half attention.
So, a lot of you listen to me now, right?
Roll persuasion with advantage.
Okay.
All of the soldiers that are with you, that are standing there, smack their the blunt end or the side of their weapon against their shield, two times and go, "Oh!"
Crow.
Mm-hmm.
So, here's the thing. I controlled him and stuff, and well, the real question is, do we want these people in our army? Assuming that you don't have one, or having to grow one, or anything like that. I don't know how kingdoms work. I'm sorry.
You see Quo.
I'm sorry, Marquise. Can you like do something different with your mic? Because it's hurting my ear every time you speak.
One
I don't
sec.
know why. It's like really, really loud.
It might just be too close to his face.
That could be it.
1 sec. Let me try this.
Oh no, I'm really mad. Please stand by. Technical difficulties.
How's that?
That sounds maybe better. I don't know. Anyway, please proceed.
Okay. So, Umgaz, you see Quo look back at the entrance,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll look back at you, and he pulls his hat down over his eyes, and he says, Mr. Umgaz,
Mm-hmm.
you decide what to do with them. And he's kind of like trembling as he says it.
Umgaz kind of wrinkles his nose, and if you look, like he kind of stares off into the distance for a second, and you can hear the gears crank in his head, and you can also probably hear the words echo in his head. You decide, and he says, all right, you lot, because I'm not going to call you by names, you lot. So, me as your new leader of sorts, I declare thus. Those of you who want to leave this life, leave. Be with your families or whatever you want to do, as long as it's not murder, I guess. Murder's frowned upon, right? Yeah. Anyway, so, the rest of you, Umgor's Giant's Blood, tell you to swear fealty to King Quo and Eridin.
At this, the ogre kind of steps up. Umver ovilti. Hmm.
I would like to translate.
Do you know giant? Is it a
Indeed,
mixture
I
of
do.
giant? Okay. He is saying what from the two languages, it's like Spanglish a little bit. He's saying what does fealty mean?
Jackie will step forward, kind of jog over, and he'll say, it means fight for him. You fight for us, we will feed you.
I need food. Which you understand he's actually basically saying, how do we know you'll be able to keep up the food.
That's a fair question there, laddie. Umgaz, how do we know that we'll be able to feed these guys?
And you see him kind of zone out again. And he says,
When it comes to feeding one's army, there are multiple methods we can go about. Legal methods. A lot of people will pay good money.
I'm saying all this. What you hear him say. Who's saying all this as he looks around, like clearly above his eye level is way above where Quo's standing.
Jackie will jump up onto his shoulder and kind of put his hands on the side of his head and turn his head down to look towards Quo.
Oh, little man. Okay.
He's still seeing the hat over Quo's eyes. So it's really just a talking hat.
Good point. Good point.
The
How's your
hat.
cut?
We can make sure you're fed.
Okay. You promise. Roll persuasion.
Okay. However, take this at disadvantage.
Huh?
Take this at disadvantage because Quo's heart is not in this.
Fair enough.
14, it's not too bad.
All right. You keep food. They fight for you. And he kind of like gestures to. This is, of course, Fomorian. They have life left. They go back home. They even know where home is. My fault. Me protect them. Me make sure they no die. Me
Well,
owe them.
Now, I'm not in any position of power here, but it does seem to me like what you and your followers have done is a pretty terrible thing. Perhaps more than just work for us, you could help us build a better world to make up for what you've done. That's just
He looks
just my
at
opinion.
Umgas and he's like, "Who this man?" He points to Jackie.
he's a trusted friend.
He tried to kill little man early.
No, that was a figment of your imagination.
What does mean figment?
It wasn't real. You were imagining it.
What does mean imagine?
It means it's not real.
Yeah, well, who said?
I think the best way to put this would be to say it wasn't exactly me that attacked Quo. It was your friend, as you put it. Just like he'd manipulated you, he manipulated me. Although he did take a little more of an active approach to it.
Fomorian not like man. He speak too much. Too many words make for lies.
You make a fair point there, laddie. Jackie says as he starts to just wander off from him.
Umgaz, what's your passive perception?
13.
Okay. You would notice because he's right. Actually, he's on your shoulders, but you feel this. You feel little drops on the top of your head.
With a passive 16, would I notice that as well? Being as close to you guys as I am.
Sure. I mean, if you're not trying to actively hide it, anyone that's within visual eyesight of you can see it.
It was more because his hat's covering most of his face. It'd be
but if you're on Umgaz's shoulders, then your hat doesn't cover anything. It's just maybe put shadow on your face. But either way, yeah. I mean,
probably.
If you want to try to hide it from people, that's different. But I was assuming you were just doing it openly.
Oh no, he's not doing it openly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why he pulls his hat over his eye.
Umga's kind of like he sets his jaw to one side and he just He's just not really sure what to do, and he says, "You all right, Quo?"
We should talk outside.
So as you're saying this through the tears, Quo, with your passive perception, you do see on the far right there is a door that you have not actually seen, and through the door, it's like more of a portcullis than anything. There's a table that you seem to have interrupted a ritual of, as someone was tied down and about to be made into an unremarkable. The person is still on the table, but the people that were doing the ritual are gone.
Wait, is this on the right?
Well, it's the right from as you guys are standing. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Quo will say to you, let's talk about it in a little bit. But he'll point to the table where someone is currently strapped down.
Umgaz will walk over to it. Is it this? No, it's not that one. It's this.
Yep,
stuff
I'm
here.
putting it in. I'm putting it in.
Ah, okay. Q.
Okay. So yeah, as you walk over to it, the portcullis is closed. Through the bars, you see what appears to be like an orcish woman, but she has almost elven features. Do you want to give a better description of yourself, Miss Julie?
I certainly would. You see a slightly built orc. She has longer ears, slightly larger eyes, but her frame is definitely not as hefty as you would expect from an orc. Her skin is a light stone gray. She's got some black hair up at the top. She has a couple of tattoos. Her armor, if it's still on, is green and covered in rivets. Not sure what equipment she has with her.
Yeah,
So,
her armor
other
and
than
starting
that, she's got
her armor and starting equipment, by the way, is on the floor next to her, like not next to her, but in the corner of the room.
fair
She's
enough.
been hastily removed. She's
She
currently
looks
wearing
over.
just like a sheet
Rags.
covering her body.
Yeah, Under Armour. And she looks over, and her eyes are light brown, maybe gold. She kind of bares her teeth at you.
We should help her.
Umgaz nods once, and he kind of strides over. And is there a lock on there?
It doesn't appear to have any kind of lock like that you see. It's a portcullis, which typically are operated from a switch somewhere far away or nearby, or you also do know from experience that you can just outmuscle one and pick it up if you wanted to, or you could look for like a switch.
Umgaz is going to just outmuscle it.
All right, roll a strength check.
Alrighty.
17. Yep. You are able to heftily with your hands. You find just enough space for your fingers to fit underneath two of the bottom bars, and you give a massive grunt, and your muscles tense. And at first, you don't know that's anything's gonna happen, but then after about 3 or 4 seconds of solid effort, you just shrink as the portcullis is shoved into the ceiling, where it seems to have a latching sound as it's now held fast.
Hello.
Right then.
Does she
Do you think you'll be letting me go? Or are you just going to be staring at me?
Oh, I was thinking about letting you go. Look. Yeah.
It's at this point that Jackie is going to go and take Quo off Umgaz's shoulders. And remove Quo from this potentially not child-friendly environment.
I like to
And then
that Umgaz doesn't even notice.
As he has Quo on his shoulder, he whispers something to Quo, and then he bows towards Umgaz and Bri, and he kind of backs off. He says, I feel like this is a conversation that we should give them some privacy.
You see
About.
Umgaz like give you the finger ballistas. And
Finger ballistas.
Finger ballistas.
And he turns back and he says, well, it's a pleasure to meet you. The name's Umgaz, as you've heard. What's your name?
Aren't you just the hero? Please be calling me Bri.
Oh, it's a pleasure to... Goodness. Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you. So, how'd you wind up here in this place? I like your hair, by
What
the
do
way.
you think?
Well, for me, it was this cunt named Draws who kind of sold me out and this stuff. So, that was unpleasant. Did you get sold out by a cunt named Draws? Because I don't imagine it's the same way, but it could be.
No.
Um,
So I'm
Miss
so glad
Lady?
that we've had this talk.
Miss Lady,
Now do you think you can be letting me go?
I,
Yes, little one.
are you gonna hit us if we let you go?
No.
Do I believe her?
As Quo asks, the broken and beaten Jackie kind of, with Quo on one shoulder, raises his other fist and kind of like, put up your dukes, madam. But he says nothing. But he's like bleeding profusely from like every
he
orifice on
sways,
his
yeah,
body.
he
Yeah,
sways.
and he's like, one of his eyes is swollen shut and the other one is looking in the complete wrong direction. But he's
Oh,
like,
God.
you come at this kid, I'll fucking end you, woman. It's not a game.
He plays to win. All right.
Yeah. So, and he gets out of the way.
And as Zinxasis kind of slithers back into the forefront, hearing this conversation going on, he just kind of sees that the orcish-looking woman in the cage doesn't appear outwardly hostile. And I just kind of get next to Umgaz and I say, I do not wish to be in this place any longer. We take these unremarkables. We take this one too.
I could tell you I'm anything but unremarkable.
Also, as he slithers in, you see for the first time in your life a creature that is half human with the bottom half of a snake tail. It would probably be something that you would you've never seen before and treat. It almost looks like a monster at first, something that might even invoke a little bit of terror in your, the more primitive part of your evolutionary system.
I do have to say, you're not the heroes I expected, but in a pinch, I guess you'll do. Now, would you be letting me go?
Yeah, of course. And he shoots you the finger ballista and gets out of the way. And he says, I wasn't thinking about... And he turns to Zinx and says, I wasn't thinking about keeping it, but maybe these unremarkables, they could be useful, I guess.
Perhaps we will continue this
How many times do I have
conversation
to tell you?
when they are not so close. Let us examine this cage. Did you happen to see a key, Miss Bry?
I already opened it.
Okay.
The poor girl's cage is open, but she's still strapped to the table.
Oh, right. And he goes in and he and he just opens it.
Punches the strap undone.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Sorry, I didn't even know.
He hits the strap with his hammer.
My bad. I am just so sorry. And you can
He attacks the table's legs.
He just fucks up everything that isn't tying her down. Whoops.
And he kind of undoes the straps. And he says, all right, sorry about that.
Indeed.
Zinx is just kind of
Yeah.
overlooking the pile of presumably your gear and I'm just kind of shooting you a glance. Is this yours?
Aye. Putting it on. Or perhaps is a wee little girl a bit too scary for you? She's looking at the snake man as she says this.
Don't answer that into this. That there is a trap.
That's a trap, mate.
That's a trap. Don't answer. Don't do it.
You're not very little.
Zinxasis is just looking at the gear as you begin putting it on and says, looks too big, ill-fitting,
Oh,
foolish.
he's gonna die. All
You
right.
see Umgar sweating profusely.
Jackie kind of puts Quo down behind him, and he's just fingering his quarterstaff. He kind of shuffles towards Zinxasis as he's kind of side-eyeing Umgos as well. He gonna die, buddy.
And Zinxis eventually just shakes his head and if you're coming with us, then come. I suppose there is only one way out of this cave anyway. Is safer together. And he's going to just slither back to the entrance.
I appreciate you not leaving me down here to die.
Well,
Bri puts on her armor. She has a hide-covered shield that she picks up, and it's covered in rivets on the outside. And she picks up her war pick that has a set of leather thongs on the backside that each have a ring lanced twined around the end.
nice.
Are you all uncomfortable with me carrying this?
What?
She
Uh,
twirls the pick around.
No, that's fucking wicked, mate.
Especially considering we're in a cave. If there's any unfortunate cave-ins, I'm sure you could help us out with something like that.
You wouldn't be so lucky. She picks up a drum and puts it at the small of her back, and then she spends some time going over a wooden stringed instrument to make sure that it's all in order before she puts that on her back as well.
Neat.
As she's doing that, Jackie kind of turns to Quo and he leans down and says, "Quo, lad, are you all right? You seem a little bit shaken."
He will not look you in the eye, and he just says, "I'm fine." And he walks out of the room.
as Quo kind of shuffles past me, I turn and look at Jackie, and having absolutely no tact, Zinxis says, "Child is no fine. He's injured, bloody." And I kind of get close to Quo, and I say, hold still," as I cast some of the last of my lay on hands and
Okay.
heal him for 5.
Wonderful. You will feel Quo trembling beneath your hands.
And the instant that my hand touches you, you see this energy sort of begin to coalesce in his hand, and this instant it touches you, you feel a bit better, but you can also feel a very weird sensation of your swelling and bruises beginning to shrink back into your skin as you're getting healed. And Zinxis just sort of nods at you and continues marching out and making sure that nothing else is coming up behind.
Yeah. So after you heal him, you hear a little broken sob, just, and he just books out of there.
All right.
At the sob, Zinxis too books it out and is all right.
Okay. Now, when you book it out, are you talking about like long form novel where we go through every step, or like comic book where it's just panel by panel?
Panel by panel.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking. All right. So the party then, together, are able to, accompanied by 101 terrors of the night, literally, are able to make it back without any. I mean, there's no one left alive down here, at least that you guys could possibly run into at this point. And oh no, what happened? So Brad. Okay, yeah. So you guys make it back up to the opening of the mouth of the cave, and as you you snake around. It takes you about 2 more hours because of how long it is to get there, especially traveling with a large group. So at this point, it's pretty close to dark, maybe about an hour or two before sunset. And as you crest over up to the mouth of the tunnels, back onto the top of that hill that you're on, surrounded by 2 rivers. You turn and you look at your little entourage that you brought with you, and as you approach, you see the Ataraxia and uh, I can't remember his name. Vlad have begun fighting with hands, fist fights each other and you're not exactly sure why, but the two of them are engaging in fisticuffs. Now, Vlad is a very powerful person, but Ataraxia is very well trained, and she is getting the best of this, by the way. Oh, for those of you who don't know, those of you, well, the one person in the party who hasn't seen them yet, Vlad is a very tall, very square-jawed human, wearing full plate armor at this point, or not really quite full plate, most plate armor, and he has a bit of just a tuft of a goatee over his mouth. Otherwise, he's perfectly well groomed from what you can see. Ataraxia is a tiefling with a particular set of skills, so to speak. She's a monk, and the two of them just seem to be circling each other. Every so often, one of them will lunge forward and attack the other. The
Does
cart,
Zinx-
other than them, the cart is currently on the top of the cart is sets at Eridan's wolf, kind of just overlooking the supplies, and then there is the owlbear, your owlbear friend, who has officially decided that this is no longer an issue and is swimming in the river nearby.
Does Zinxis see this? And we all see this, right, as we come out of the cave?
Yeah, as you see this, everyone sees what I just described.
I immediately begin to walk towards the fight, and I am just
So,
watching and smiling every time Vlad happens to get punched, hopefully in the face.
you're smiling a lot, yeah.
I'm
As
putting
you
me money on
approach,
the little one.
as you approach, though, the two of them stop and they're like, you see Ataraxia say, "Oh, I was wondering how many times I could hit him before you guys got back. I bet 106. He bet 13. Seems like someone owes me a dinner." Vlad, with a very swollen face, turns to you and says, to Quo and says, "It was only letting her win, you know. You have to keep their confidence up. Am I right?" As he smiles, he has blood coming from like his teeth.
And Quo will look up at him with really angry eyes and just say, "Why don't you flirt later?" And he just walks straight past him.
Okay.
Said,
The rest of you see Ataraxia and Vlad look shocked, and they're like, "What exactly? Oh shit!" And they just now look at like as at this time you have the rest of the party that the rest of the people coming up there, and they start drawing. Like he draws his sword. Ataraxia cracks her knuckles and starts walking forward towards the 101 horrors.
"Calm down. They're with us."
I'm sorry. I feel like there's explanations that might be
They
needed.
are with us. And he just stops talking and just walks away, like probably into a tent.
Okay, so you go into a nice little tent. Meanwhile, the two people who have been with the Quo and Airden, Airden also disappears with him behind the tent, behind him with a tent. And the two people that have been with him the longest, which is Ataraxia and Vlad, look around at this like gathering and they talk to each other for a second, and then they kind of turn and Ataraxia walks over to Umgaz and says, "Excuse me, Mr. Umgaz,
Yeah.
I would like very much to understand what's happening. Could you please?"
Yeah, right. So, from what I can gather, you see, there was this spectral ghost thingy, and
Mhm.
I killed it, and now
Yes.
I'm in charge of this.
Right.
And
And they listen to you no matter what.
mm-hmm. I'm not entirely sure what to do.
I don't think that you have tested this properly. You must make sure they're loyal. Tell one of them to jump in the river. As Vlad kind of just like hollers from across
All of you,
the area.
50 jumping jacks.
Persuasion with advantage.
Okay.
While that's rolling, I kind of get next to Umgaz and I say, "Do not do is death sentence."
I don't know if it rolled. One sec. Let me try again. All right. Damn it.
Well, the first one
So
was
I got a 16.
16.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yep. That's fine. All of them, including the very poorly suited for this type of activity, Fomorian, Fomorian start doing the jumping jacks, and Fomorian actually falls over once, about 10 jumping jacks through, as his body is just very awkward for this kind of a thing. But he gets back up, and so after about 20 seconds, after everyone else finishes, he ends up finishing, breathing heavily at this point. The ogre, by the way, every time the ogre would jump and doing a jumping jack, there would be like a mini earthquake down below, like on the ground nearby. The ground
Tremor.
would quake with the steps. Yeah, tremor.
I'm not throwing them in the river, mate.
I think you should ask them all to dance. I'm just saying, we don't know.
A
Maybe
lot
they'll
of
do
you
simple
dance.
roll persuasion check. Advantage, of course.
Yeah.
Mhm.
16.
Is this a camp that we're in?
Right. What's
Yeah, they have made a makeshift camp up above where the tunnel is. So basically, what's happened is this is a peninsula, a small, very small peninsula with two rivers that are kind of, you're at near the base of a mountain where water has drained from the ice melting, and has formed two rivers that kind of fork around you, and you are basically right there at the edge of the two rivers, and they have made a makeshift camp with a few tents and such here. They don't have nearly enough space or tents or protection from the elements to keep all these people safe.
No. Okay.
But yeah, that's where you're at.
Brya heads over to the river and starts to wash herself up because I imagine she's. Yeah.
Seeing her just walk towards the river, I just sigh and I just get next to this fire and start warming myself up. And I kind of say to Umgaz, I warn.
All right, I need you.
You see
As
Umgaz just like his giant hand that's as big as his face, just like it's all there. And he's like, "Yep, you sure did."
All right, as she reaches down to the river, Brian needs you to make me a dex save, please.
Okay. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page.
Note to self: always make
Yeah.
sure you're on the same page as the party. No, get it? Same page? That was double meaning.
Hey, come on. Yeah, I see what you did there.
Well, the first one you rolled was a 10. You rolled 3, which is cool. That's
Oh, sorry. Hey, I'm trying to do
it's okay.
this
It's okay.
still.
It's okay. So, 10 is the bare minimum needed to succeed this check. As you approach the river, you see that the ground is very, the riverbank is very brittle, and at the same time, towards the closer farther down you go, the more muddy it is. And if you weren't careful, you might slide into the river. But you were able to gingerly step down, and you're now successfully cleaning yourself in the river.
Okay, make sure I fill my water skin. I head back to the fire.
Okay.
After seeing you actually return from the river, just kind of a surprised look on my face, and seeing that you aren't out of breath from having to swim, being in the current, just sort of gives you a